Start.
Good evening. I'm going to present today on thoracic and thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysms. It's introduction. Aortic diseases, including aortic aneurysms, are the 12th leading causes. Descending thoracic aortic aneurysms and thoracoabdominal aneurysms has an left person years, which occurs from left subclavian artery to the bifurcation. And during this last 5 years, patients age more than 50 years, the mortality for non-ruptured is 0.1 to 2.8%, whereas ruptured is 0.2 to 3.2 per 1 lakh persons. This aneurysm repair is associated with high mortality and morbidity. Most of these aneurysms are secondary to either medial degeneration or aortic dissection, and frank atherosclerosis are much rarer. Medial degeneration is characterized by disruption and loss of elasticity, increased deposition of proteoglycans. Other thoracic aortic pathologies which can induce these aneurysms are acute aortic syndromes, in which there is aortic dissection, intramural hematoma, and penetrating aortic ulcers. And these aortic pathology, aneurysms, other pathologies that can lead to aneurysms are vasculitis, in which giant cell arteritis, staphyloarteritis, and Behçet's disease may also lead to these aneurysms. And other histopathologies associated with thoracic aorta other than aneurysms are various brachiocephalic anomalies like aberrant right subclavian arteries and tumors. Disastrous complications of these aneurysms include pulmonary and enteric fistulas. Coming to anatomy, and definition of these aneurysms are thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysms are localized dilatations in thoracic and abdominal aorta, secondary to weakening and subsequent expansion of aortic wall. It is dilatation at least 1 its normal value. Aneurysm diameter is the strongest predictor of rupture, with a reported aortic diameter of ruptured aneurysm is 6.1 centimeters. Aorta is divided into 4 parts: aorta, aortic arch, and descending thoracic aorta. The normal thoracic aortic is composed of 3 layers, which include intima, media, and adventitium. The aorta aorta. Under and body surface area influence aortic diameter, and mean size small, usually 2 to 3 in women than in men. Body surface area is reported to be a better predictor of aortic diameter than height or weight. Increase in cross-section diameter is highly variable, with reported increase of 1 mm per year. These are the normal aortic diameters and lengths. Ascending aorta diameter, normal diameter is 3 centimeters, and the mean aortic length is 5 meters, which constitute to 40% of all the aneurysms. And aneurysms in the aortic arch constitute 15%, with a mean aortic length of 4 centimeters and diameter being 2.5 to 3.5. And descending thoracic aortic aneurysms constitute to 35% of all the aneurysms, and thoracoabdominal or least common with 10%. Growth rates accelerate as they enlarge. And for example, thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysms more than 5 centimeters expand at a rate of 0.79 centimeter per year, whereas which are less than 5 centimeters experience growth rates of 0.2 centimeter per year. And Dapnett and associates have documented that patients with ruptured aneurysms experience growth rates of 0.7 centimeter per year, and the distal aorta manifests more rapid growth than more proximal segments. Aneurysms may be either saccular or fusiform. Most thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysms are fusiform aneurysms, which involve a chronic uniform dilatation involving the whole circumference of the aorta. In contrast, saccular aneurysms often represent an eccentric dilatation of the aorta. Mycotic aneurysms are often saccular, and these are at high risk for rupture. The size at which eccentric saccular aneurysms repaired has not, but most would concur that low threshold is an acceptable indication for repair. This is it rose by 52% in men and 20% in women to reach 16.3 and 9.1 per 1 lakh per year respectively. And increasing prevalence of these aneurysms has been attributed to a number of factors, including improved imaging techniques and aging population and increased patient and physician awareness. The most common population affected, it's primarily a disease of elderly, And the average age of patients with these aneurysms is 65 years, with a male to female ratio of 1.7 to 1.7 to. In patients with abdominal aortic aneurysms whose mean age is 75 years, the male to female ratio is 6:1. These thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysms clearly have a genetic component, since most of patients will have a first degree relative affected by this aneurysm disease. Risk factors for the disease are high. More commonly, it's hypertension, smoking, and atherosclerosis in other arteries. And for rupture, systemic hypertension, and in particularly elevated diastolic blood pressure more than 100 mm of mercury, has been associated with aortic growth and rupture. Most often are degenerative, and only up to 20% are sequelae of chronic aortic dissection. And colleagues, they have conducted a study on 200 patients. They serially followed by axial imaging after acute uncomplicated type B dissection. And the mean time to intervention was 27 months. In this, 28% of patients required aortic reconstruction for aneurysm degeneration, typically open repair. And the only factor which was predictive of aortic growth was the initial aortic diameter, which was more than 3.5 centimeters. False lumen thrombosis was protective against aortic growth, and early intervention with TVAP to cover the entry TO in selected high-risk patients, it may induce positive aortic remodeling and avoid the morbidity associated with open repair. Multiple genetic syndromes, most commonly Marfan syndrome, have been associated with these aneurysms and dissections. Vascular manifestations of Marfan syndrome, in particular to this aortic root dilatation, progressive root and ascending aortic aneurysmal degeneration, and aortic variable extent. The extent of dissection predicts the need for future intervention on the distal aorta, but there is no consensus on appropriate management of this aortic arch repairs. Reoperation is commonly encountered after surgery in Marfan syndrome, and it has occurred in 20 patients at a mean of 5 years from the index operation, with most of these requiring multiple operations. Coming to genetics of Marfan syndrome, it is seen due to mutations in fibrillin 1, and there is a homology between fibrillin 1 and TGF beta binding proteins in development of these and Marfan syndrome. To insufficiency of impaired elastogenesis, which causes aneurysmal aortic degeneration. Because most patients' aneurysms are asymptomatic, treatment is aimed at preventing rupture. And have also shown that 11 to 19% of patients have a first degree relative with the are responsible for smooth muscle cell adhesion and contraction in patients with both sporadic renal aneurysmal disease. Patients with history tend to present at a younger age than those with without a positive history, but these present at an older age than those with connective tissue disorders. Inheritance is autosomal dominant fashion with variable expression, and the causative genes most commonly encountered are due to tumor growth factor BR2 mutation involved in chromosome 16p due to MYH11 gene and due to ACTA2 gene. These mutations to the basic are due to building blocks of actin which are responsible for these syndromes. Dressler, who conducted a study, concluded that approximately of patients who did not undergo surgical repair died of aneurysmal rupture, whereas 32% died of other cardiovascular diseases. And the mean survival was less than 3 years. And during the extended period of observation, more than 90% of patients sustained aortic rupture, with 68% of ruptures occurring more than 1 month after the diagnosis. And the 5-year survival rate for patients with 6 centimeters thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysm is 54%, with a risk for rupture of 3.7% per year, and the risk for the death was increasing by 12% per year. Survival in these patients with untreated aneurysms is still only 3.3 years, and it's very poor. In a natural history study by Crawford and Denatel of patients who were not candidates for surgery, the survival rate was just 24% at 2 years, with over half of the deaths related to aneurysmal rupture. And the important risk factors for rupture are older age, COPD, which is most common and seen in 80% of patients with these aneurysms, chronic renal failure, and uncharacteristic continued pain, and it depends on the initial aortic diameter. Patients with aortic dissection ruptured at smaller aortic diameters than did those with degenerative aneurysms, and maximal aortic dimension has emerged as the most reliable predictor of future aortic dissection or rupture. These aneurysms more than 8 centimeter have an 80% risk for rupture within one diagnosis, and the average expansion rate of this aneurysm is approximately 0.1 to 0.42 centimeter per year. Cody and associates suggested that expansion by more than 1 centimeter per year signals impending rupture. These are the risk factors: age, pain, COPD, descending aortic diameter, and abdominal aortic diameter. Initial. Wang and co-authors examined genetic signatures in peripheral blood sample of patients with analysis of this peripheral blood to determine expression signatures help to identify patients with high accuracy. Extracellular matrix degradation by matrix metalloproteinases exceeds matrix production and repair during aneurysm formation. So there are significant differences in composition of the aortic wall as we progress from ascending aorta to iliac bifurcation. Ascending aorta has a greater concentration of elastin and is therefore more compliant than descending aorta. These are the factors involved: matrix metalloproteinase 2, matrix metalloproteinase 9, altered membrane type 1 matrix metalloproteinase, and tissue inhibitor of matrix metalloproteinase 2, and interleukin 1 beta and interleukin 6. The media also becomes thinner as one progresses from proximal to distal aorta. Asymmetric production of MMP9 in the expanding aneurysmal wall, it correlated with increased number of macrophages on histology. MMP9 gene deletion attenuated aneurysmal formation despite increase in MMP2 activity. Coming to aortic wall histology, it's most closely associated with aneurysmal formation is most closely associated with medial degeneration, which is known as cystic medial necrosis. Medial degeneration, it is characterized by fragmentation of loss of elastic fibers, loss of smooth muscle cells, and collection of interstitial collagenous tissue, basophilic ground substance, and proteoglycans. Although medial degeneration is considered part of the normal aging process, it is accelerated by conditions such as hypertension and atherosclerosis, which are the main risk factors for aneurysmal formation. Medial degeneration is most closely associated with the development of fusiform aneurysms, and genetic abnormalities like Marfan syndrome also accelerate aortic medial degeneration. Although these aneurysms were originally described as non-inflammatory, recent studies have shown that infiltration of leukocytes contributes to the formation and development of aneurysms. 80% of aneurysms are secondary to medial degeneration, with approximately 15 to 20% are caused by aortic dissection. Coming to etiology, degenerative or most common accounting to 80%, dissections as seen 15 to 20%. It might be due to connective tissue disorders like Marfan syndrome, and be after due to infection. It's seen in 2%. It might be due to mycotic aneurysms, tuberculosis, syphilis, aortitis, Takayasu disease, and autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis seen in Reuters syndrome, and relapsing polychondritis. In less than 1%, it is seen as a complication of postoperatively, and it includes postoperative pseudoaneurysms, and in less than it might be traumatic. With these aneurysms secondary to aortic dissection are typically younger and involve more extensive aortic degenerative aneurysms. Both systemic autoimmune disorders such as Takayasu arthritis and non-specific aortitis can destroy the aortic media with progressive aneurysm formation. Aneurysms associated with arthritis are more commonly seen in women, and aneurysms of upper thoracic aorta can also be secondary to congenital aortic coarctations, either in unrepaired coarctations or after repair. These aneurysms may also form secondary to infection. Although saccular aneurysms are mycotic, these aneurysms are most often bacterial and occur because of hematogenous spread of emboli laden with bacteria. These infected aneurysms first initially there will be seeding of atherosclerotic plaque in the aorta, and then development of focal inflammatory process in the aortic wall, which leads to formation of false aneurysm. And the main goal of therapy is to debulk the infection and restore arterial continuity. In the endovascular approach can be utilized as either definitive management or as a bridge to stabilize an ill patient to eventual open operation. An endovascular approach, if it's durable, may definitively circumvent the challenges posed by open aortic reconstruction in an infection field. Coming to anatomic classification of aneurysms, type 1, it's seen at 25%. It extends from descending thoracic aorta and extend only upper abdominal aorta. And in type 2, it's seen 30%. It extends till entire descending thoracic aorta and most of the entire abdominal aorta. In type 3, it is seen in 25%, in less than 25%, with variable lengths of descending thoracic aorta, and it can even extend into abdomen. So, in type 4, it is seen in less than 25%, which is limited to abdominal aorta, include visceral and renal arteries. In type 5, the aneurysmal sac extend only below the 6th intercostal space to just above the renal arteries. History and physical examination. Most patients with these aneurysms have no symptoms which are attributable to either disease or diagnosis. The diagnosis is often incidental and often made when evaluating the patient for other unrelated conditions. Panetton documented that 50% of these patients with degenerative aneurysms will have symptoms before rupture. And physical examination, recommendations for physical examination are we should examine perfusion differentials in the upper and should check for evidence of any visceral ischemia, for any focal neurological deficits, murmur of aortic regurgitation, and evaluation for bruise should be done, and findings compatible with possible cardiac tamponade should be correlated. The most common initial symptom is vague pain, which can occur in chest, back, flank, or abdomen. Diagnosis in a patient with symptomatic aneurysm, it might be angina, aortic dissection, or any degenerative disease of spine. So typical of most aneurysms that are enlarging, pain may increase in severity dramatically. Most common is back pain. It can be chronic, whereas an abdominal aortic aneurysms in which back pain is often acute rupture. Symptoms may also occur from compression of thoracic aorta. The respiratory symptoms, any question this aneurysm trade focus. Dysphagia is uncommon and non-specific, but it's due to compression and sudden and catastrophic hemoptysis or hematemesis may be seen due to erosion of this aneurysm into bronchial and pulmonary space. Aneurysm treated. This is a patient of abdominal aortic aneurysm who was already treated with EVAR and then again presented with thoracic aneurysm with hoarseness of voice due to compression of aneurysm, due to compression of nerve by the neurological deficits may also be seen, which results in paraplegia, and these are more common in those with aortic dissection. Embolization to the visceral and renal arteries and arteries of lower extremities are also noticed. Gastrointestinal hemorrhage, aortoenteric fistulas, or a functional compression of duodenum due to abdominal of the aneurysm. Most patients with symptoms have aneurysms that have attained diameter more than 5 centimeters. On examination, no obvious physical finding in the chest area unless tracheal deviation is present. If abdominal component of aneurysm is present, we may have a pulsatile abdominal mass similar to that seen in patients with pure abdominal aortic aneurysm. Aneurysms, examining the natural history of patients with aneurysms indicate that between 20% and 30% will also have aneurysm. In 1500 patients, Crawford and Cohen documented that 30% harbored aneurysms in other segments also. Synchronous proximal ascending and arch aneurysms are noted in 6 to 13% of patients with thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysm. Even after repair, at least 10% of patients with these aneurysms will require subsequent aneurysm repair. To be high risk of this manifestation, and patient with syndrome who had undergone surgery over an average of 5 years following initial operation, 20%, with 37 of these reoperations thoracic or thoracoabdominal aorta. And among patients with Marfan syndrome with type A dissection, 21% eventually required reoperation on the thoracoabdominal aorta, and this was 3 times more common in DBQ1 compared to DBQ2 type 2 dissections. Coming to imaging, accurate and precise determination of the anatomy of patients with aneurysm is mandatory in determining for operative repair unless prescribed follow-up. Cross-sectional imaging, mainly by CT, is the primary method to visualize the thoracic and abdominal aorta for determining aneurysm diameter and extent. Because most are small when discovered, serial imaging is required. Serial imaging is typically performed at 6 to 12-month intervals, but it varies depending on the initial diameter and extent of aneurysm. These are the recommendations for aortic imaging to determine the presence and progression of aortic disease. Measurements of aortic diameter should be taken at reproducible landmarks perpendicular to the axis of blood flow and reported in clear and consistent format. From measurements taken by CT angio or MR angio, the external diameter should be measured perpendicular to the axis of blood flow. Any abnormalities of aortic morphology should be repeated separately even when aortic diameters are within normal limits. The finding of aortic dissection, aneurysm, or trauma with or without aortic rupture should be immediately communicated to the referring physician, and techniques to minimize episodic and cumulative radiation exposure should be utilized whenever possible. This is class 1 evidence, and if clinical information is available, it can be useful to correlate the aortic diameter with patient and body size. Chest X-ray can suggest an enlarged thoracic aorta secondary to a calcified aortic wall. It gives indirect findings like a widened mediastinum, enlargement of aortic nerve, tracheal deviation, or left main placement. And it is inadequate to definitely exclude the presence or absence of thoracic aortic disease. And this study conducted of data pooled from 10 studies suggests that the predictive sensitivity of a widened mediastinum or an abnormal aortic counter associated with thoracic aortic disease is 64% and 71% respectively. In contrast, a prospective study of over 200 patients with thoracic aortic pathology documented a specificity of 86% for chest X-ray. Computed tomography, multi-detector CT scanning with three-dimensional reconstruction is now the gold standard for evaluating aorta in patients with these aneurysms. It renders a diagnosis and establishes the extent and maximal dimensions of aneurysm. New generation multi-detector CT scans have been shown to have sensitivity and specificity over 95%, and post-acquisition image processing can generate sagittal, coronal, and oblique views, as well as three-dimensional renderings that can be used to determine whether a patient is a candidate for a stent or graft. A general assessment of other organs in chest, abdomen, pelvis is also obtained with multi-detector CT, which allows detection of other pathology, including cancer, that might affect patient management and surgical planning. Of CTR, it gives better spatial resolution, reduced cost, and rapidity of acquisition, thereby decreasing patient claustrophobia, anxiety, and image motion artifact, and applicability to patients with previously implanted ferromagnetic devices when compared to MR angio, and wide availability of CT. CT angio, the assessment of occlusive disease in branch vessels, including vertebral, subclavian, hypogastric arteries, and all essential contributors to the spinal collateral network, can also be seen. In addition, CT angio documents the patency of important intercostal arteries that might be reimplanted into the aortic graft if extensive open aneurysmal repair is being considered. CT angio further documents the presence of thrombus, inflammatory changes, dissection, and retroperitoneal blood, suggestive of rupture of aneurysm. Disadvantages: because of nephrotoxicity of iodinated contrast agents in elective surgery and endovascular therapy setting, especially insufficient. Administration of acetyl-cysteine and intravenous strategies with contrast-induced nephropathy. If the later complication does occur, then elective repair should be delayed until renal function returns to baseline. In patients with renal insufficiency, multi-detector CT without iodinated contrast agents can be useful to determine aneurysmal size or extent, but will not provide accurate data regarding atherosclerotic burden of branch vessels or the presence of dissection. When given standard small boluses of low osmolar contrast material in performing CT angiography, contrast-related acute renal failure after CTA is in fact rare, and even when it is occur, it's mild. Coming to MRA, advantages of magnetic resonance angiography in patients of renal insufficiency because it avoids use of iodinated contrast material, and it helps it is also useful to map the spinal cord circulation before aneurysmal repair. It provides better contrast resolution but less spatial resolution. It was used to identify the patency of visceral and renal vessels in patients initially, but the use of gadolinium in patients with renal insufficiency has made the use of magnetic resonance angiography less attractive, and it is technically limited that thrombus and calcium are not prominently displayed. Increased time required to acquire the images, and the associated claustrophobia and increased cost and interference from metallic implants limits its usage compared to CT angiography. Arteriography. In past, aortography was performed as part of preoperative evaluation to define the extent and location of aneurysm. Angiography is currently considered obsolete except for special situations such as attempting to map the spinal cord circulation. William and co-workers used angiography in a study to identify the artery of Adamkiewicz or the great radicular artery. By knowing in advance which intercostal artery was providing this important branch, it enables prompt and focused revascularization while preventing paraplegia. Indications of arteriography are the evaluation of branch anatomy and occlusive disease in cerebrovascular, visceral, renal, and iliac beds, when it is important to limit the use of iodinated contrast material in patients with chronic renal failure. Selective angiography using dilute contrast or CO2 might also be used to treat patients with occlusive disease before aneurysmal repair. Laboratory testing. At present, there are no available biomarkers. In acute aortic dissections, number of proteins including lipoprotein A, S, 100B, and calcitonin are sometimes used for lab to identify. Platelet activation and thrombin generation occur in patients with large dilated descending aortic aneurysms, particularly in areas of mucoid degeneration. It was demonstrated that differential expression of microRNA and matrix metalloproteinase subtypes between those patients with bicuspid and tricuspid aortic valves. It suggests that familial and degenerative aortic diseases may be distinguished by simple blood tests, although these tests are clinically available. Complete and for routinely investigating the patient, complete blood count with platelets, coagulation studies, determination of blood, urea, nitrogen, and creatinine levels is routine before aneurysmal repair. Some may have low-grade disseminated intravascular coagulation, and based on conjunctive coagulopathy from the aneurysm, it results in low platelets. Into medical therapy, there is no level A or B evidence comparing modern medical therapy with open or endovascular repair. And non-operative management includes strict blood pressure control with beta blockade and then angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor or receptor blockers. Cessation of smoking, periodic imaging to monitor to see the size of aneurysm. According to American Heart Institute guidelines, stringent control of hypertension, lipid profile optimization, smoking cessation, and other atherosclerotic risk reductions should be instituted for small aneurysms not requiring surgery, as well as for patients who are not considered to be surgical or stent graft candidates. Coming to medical therapy, antihypertensive medication, the goal blood pressure should be 140/90 in patients without diabetes and 130/80 in patients with diabetes or chronic renal failure. Unless contraindicated, patients with Marfan syndrome and aortic aneurysms be given beta blockers. The rate of aortic dilatation. A class 2 has been made that in those with aortic aneurysms, blood pressure should be reduced with beta blockers, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors or ARBs to the lowest point so that patient can tolerate without any adverse effects. Beta blockers conducted a study and showed decreasing the force of myocardial contraction slows aortic growth and may prevent aneurysmal rupture secondary to aortic dissection. This observation is the basis for prescribing beta-adrenergic blocking agents as the first-line antihypertensive therapy for patients with these aneurysms. However, it does not apply to degenerative aneurysms. And the other study was conducted by Shores and colleagues, and they used propranolol over a 10-year period and showed a significant reduction in growth of the aortic root, aortic events like rupture, and mortality in patients with Marfan syndrome. It is therefore not clear that beta blockers retard aortic growth in patients with degenerative aneurysms, but the safety and efficacy of beta blockers in preventing death secondary to myocardial infarction are well documented. Therefore, they should be prescribed, or if already prescribed, continued in a perioperative setting. ACE inhibitors or ARBs. Oxidative stress plays an important role in development of degenerative aneurysms. Medical treatment with angiotensin 2 type 1 receptor blockers suppress expression of reactive oxygen species. There was a study conducted by Moser and he suggested that angiotensin 2 type 1 receptor blockers and not AC or renin inhibitors should be preferred for treatment of patients with these aneurysms. Mechanism of action and particularly losartan on attenuation, it helped in attenuation of aneurysmal growth. It is by modulation of TGF beta mediated signaling. It whether this is an ARB class effect, or if one particular ARB is more effective than others in preventing this aneurysmal growth, especially losartan. The use of ARB in preventing aneurysmal growth is the strongest among patients with Marfan syndrome. Losartan to atenolol, there is no difference in efficacy between these two drugs in preventing aortic root dilatation among young Marfan's patients. Losartan, when in combination with a matrix metalloproteinase inhibitor like doxycycline, it normalizes MMP and TGF beta expression profiles, and it maintains aortic structural integrity and decreases aortic degeneration. There was a study conducted comprising nearly 600 Marfan patients. It was demonstrated that ARB use is associated with a 70% reduction in the incidence of subsequent type B aortic dissection compared with patients not taking ARBs. HMG co-reductase inhibitors are also known as statins, in addition to lowering cholesterol, also have pleiotropic effects that inhibits inflammation. Specific to these aneurysms, recent studies have shown a role of reduced NADH or reduced NADPH oxidase in this pathogenesis. This study suggests that statins might have inhibited the formation of aneurysms via suppression of NADH or NADPH oxidase. Schouten and associates documented that statins inhibit growth of aneurysms. The investigators found a significant decrease in further aortic degeneration, as well as composite of death, dissection, rupture, and need for repair among patients receiving these statins. Statins are also effective in lowering mortality after endovascular aneurysm, not after thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysm. These authors concluded that the variable response to statins again indirectly supports the concept of a distinct pathogenesis of abdominal and thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysms. Smoking cessation plays an important role. Patients who smoke or who have COPD are at risk for the development of these aneurysms. Aneurysms also grow faster and rupture more often in smokers. Cannon and Reed suggested that this was secondary to increased elastrolytic activity. It suggests that cessation of cigarette smoking is an important adjunct in those under observation with thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysm. And similar to statin usage, no randomized or prospective trials have ever shown that smoking cessation will slow thoracic aortic growth. In selection of treatment, decision as when to operate on a patient with this aneurysm involves assessment of likelihood of aortic rupture versus operative risk of the individual patient. Two major factors, patient's physiological reserve and vascular anatomy, play a significant role in determining whether a patient is best suited for open repair or endovascular approach. Size criteria. Size criteria for aneurysm repair is not clearly defined for infrarenal abdominal aortic aneurysm because there are no level A or level B scientific data regarding this timing of operative intervention. Degenerative thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysms are often not uniform in size, and it involves aortic segments of varying diameters and morphology. Adjustment for body surface area or height must be incorporated into decision making about the threshold for repair and risk of rupture. For an average older man measuring 170 to 180 centimeter in height, normal proximal descending aorta length is 2.8 centimeter, mid descending aorta is 2.7, and distal is 2.6 centimeter. The accepted size indications for this aneurysm repair, independent of etiology, a diameter of 5.2 to 5.6 centimeter, twice the diameter of normal contiguous aorta, depending on aortic segment is being repaired. 0.6 centimeter can be added or subtracted from these figures for individuals taller or shorter. Studies documenting an extremely high risk rupture and death if aneurysm is left untreated. All patients with these aneurysms should be considered for repair. In a series conducted for more than 100 ruptured aneurysms, authors noted that 80% of ruptures occurred in patients with aneurysms that were less than 10 centimeters in diameter. And the presence of aortic dissection portended rupture at smaller diameters, with a reported 13% ruptures occurring in aneurysms smaller than 6 centimeters. Ruptures occurred in thoracic and abdominal cavity with approximately equal frequency, and elective surgery was associated with 92% survival rate. These aneurysm repair should be considered before rupture when aneurysms are 5 centimeters or larger, in good risk patients, in patients with symptomatic aneurysms, in most patients with larger aneurysms. In patients with connective tissue disorders, repair should be offered when the aneurysms have diameter of 6 centimeters. A positive family history for aortic rupture or dissection might also severe to lower the threshold for repair. For descending thoracic aorta, hinge point is 7 centimeters, where 43% risk for rupture is encountered. Because multiple studies have suggested increased mortality and morbidity, particularly spinal cord ischemia for type 1, 2, and 3 thoracoabdominal aortic aneurysms, a higher threshold for repair, 6 centimeters, should be used in these patients. In contrast, patients with less extensive aneurysms such as type 4 might be better served to undergo repair at a diameter of 5.5. Preoperative evaluation, a thorough history and physical examination focusing on patients' cardiac, pulmonary, and renal function should be taken. Imaging studies are reviewed to determine the operative plan, and standard preoperative laboratory testing, ECG, and chest X-ray should be performed. Guidelines for perioperative evaluation prior to repair of open surgical and endovascular aneurysms have been created. Patterson and colleagues developed an externally validated risk stratification model. And risk factors predictive of perioperative mortality are age, renal insufficiency, history of stroke, placement of more than 2 devices, and maximal aneurysmal diameter. And the recommendations for preoperative evaluation are: in preparation for surgery, the imaging study is adequate to establish the extent of disease and the potential limits of the planned procedures are recommended. The patients with thoracic aortic disease requiring a surgical or catheter-based intervention who have symptoms or other findings of myocardial ischemia should undergo additional studies to determine the presence of significant coronary artery disease. And patients with unstable coronary syndromes and significant CAD should undergo revascularization prior to or at the time of thoracic aortic surgery or EVAR with percutaneous coronary intervention or concomitant aortic bypass surgery. The presence of coronary artery disease varies based on aortic pathology being treated. Because the typical patient undergoing this aneurysm repair is elderly, impaired myocardial function, and the presence of atherosclerotic disease of the coronary arteries are common in patients undergoing this aneurysm repair. So there is a high prevalence of CAD combined with the stress of this operation. So cardiac disease is the leading cause of mortality after open aneurysmal repair, including 49% of early deaths and 1/3 of late deaths. Therefore, before this aneurysmal repair, all patients should undergo extensive evaluation of their coronary arteries and heart valves. Preoperative ECG in a hypertensive patient with degenerative aneurysm, it may suggest left ventricular hypertrophy, also be an evidence of ischemic heart disease. And the use of coronary angiography in these patients with suspected atherosclerotic coronary disease, it may be indicated. In elective setting, CABG is also indicated. If the patient undergoes coronary stenting, clopidogrel is used for a minimum of 6 weeks, which delays aneurysmal repair. But the use of drug-eluting coronary stents, it typically requires lifelong clopidogrel usage. In addition, if the patient is to undergo CABG, use of left internal mammary artery is not recommended, primarily because it serves as an important collateral to the spinal cord as well as the chest wall. Echocardiogram. Transesophageal echocardiography is helpful in demonstrating left ventricular function and concomitant valvular abnormalities. It is also useful in evaluating the ascending and descending thoracic aorta. It helps the ability to perform in an emergency room or operating. It has the advantage that we can perform it in emergency room or operating room also. It can also be safely used in patients with renal insufficiency to assess ascending and descending aortic size as well as presence of dissection. But however, TE may not be widely available in emergency setting and it's operator dependent. So recent authoritative guidelines reflect uncertain value of extensive preoperative cardiac evaluation undergoing TEVAR in presence of stable coronary disease. And even if this workup promotes percutaneous or surgical cardiac revascularization. Bulb and colleagues conducted a study on TEVAR patients who underwent TEVAR. Overall, postoperatively, they suffered a myocardial infarction in 7% of patients, and 30-day cardiac-related mortality was only 2%. Coming to pulmonary workup, pulmonary complications after open aneurysm repair are common, with incidence of COPD estimated to be between 30 to 40%. COPD is also associated with increased perioperative mortality after aneurysmal repair. Pulmonary function test and arterial blood gas analysis are performed routinely. Preoperative maneuvers to improve pulmonary function before aneurysm repair, and include immediate cessation of smoking, use of appropriate bronchodilators, and rarely the administration of preoperative steroids when an acute exacerbation of reactive airway disease occurs. Patients can also be placed on an exercise program to improve lung capacity and be required to lose weight if obesity accompanies their lung disease. In a study of patients with COPD undergoing elective open aneurysmal repair, fewer prescribed inhalers, lower hematocrit, renal insufficiency, and coronary artery disease were associated with unfavorable outcomes. Preservation of left recurrent laryngeal and phrenic nerves is an important adjunct to decrease the incidence of pulmonary complications in these patients. Workup. Acute renal failure also predicts increased non-renal complications postoperatively, including respiratory failure. Second to aortic rupture, chronic renal insufficiency is the strongest predictor of perioperative acute renal failure and mortality after this aneurysmal repair. In a full of 15% of patients with aneurysm will have some degree of chronic renal insufficiency as defined by creatinine level of 1.8 milligram per deciliter. Preoperative renal insufficiency is such a strong predictor of poor outcome after type 2 to type 4 aneurysm repair that it has been suggested to be a relative contraindication to proceed with this repair. This graph shows a 10-year survival rate in patients undergoing aneurysmal repair with and without perioperative renal failure, which was more in patients with preoperative deranged renal functions. Functional status of the patient. Perioperative functional status of patient undergoing aneurysmal is critical in evaluating the risk. All repair has been shown to improve survival. The patients undergoing electrolipid was also decreased. Quality of life and survival were levels independent of age and position. At a mean of 35 months, psychological quality of life was in surgical groups, but physical quality of life was lower after thoracoabdominal than after ascending or descending aneurysmal repair. Other pathologies associated with thoracic aorta, their aberrant right subclavian artery. The most common variant of anomalies, brachiocephalic anomalies, is aberrant right subclavian artery. It is associated with right subclavian artery taking a course posterior to the esophagus. In as many as 80% individuals, they develop a dysphagia, which is called as dysphagia lusoria, as the artery grows larger and compresses the esophagus. When the artery itself enlarges, it develops a scomerus diverticulum, and this artery will often become aneurysmal and is associated with thoracic aortic dissections and aneurysms. Treatment includes surgical resection, proximal right subclavian artery. It includes surgical resection of proximal right subclavian artery and replacement of it and abnormal descending thoracic aorta with a graft. And there is even hybrid approach. A bypass from right common carotid artery to the right distal subclavian artery is performed with ligation of right subclavian artery proximal to the vertebral artery. This is followed by stent grafting of abnormal descending thoracic aorta. It must be added that it is imperative prior to covering the origin of right subclavian artery, coil embolization of side branches of apparent and to proximal seal the origin of left subclavian, which then requires left carotid subclavian bypass or transposition. Coarctation of aorta. It is a common congenital abnormality occurring approximately 40 to 50 out of 1 lakh live births. On physical examination, there is disparity between the upper extremity and lower extremity pulses. Some patients may present later with resultant heart failure, refractory hypertension, or diminished pulses. Surgical options depend on location of coarctation. If it is located in thoracoabdominal aorta, patch aortoplasty or thoracoabdominal bypass can be done. There is congenital stenosis of the renal and mesenteric arteries, or also if it is seen in treated uncovered and covered stents can be used, which mostly present as patch pseudo and have also been found to be effective. Thank you.